the economy of El Salvador has experienced relatively low rates of GDP growth relative to other developing countries. Rates have not risen above the low single digits in nearly 2 decades, part of broader environment of macroeconomic instability which the integration of the US dollar has done little to improve. One problem that the Salvadoran economy faces is the inequality in the distribution of income. In 2011, El Salvador had a Gini coefficient of 0.485, which, although similar to that of the United States, leaves 37.8% of the population below the poverty line. Due to lower aggregate income, the richest 10% of the population receives approximately 15 times the income of the poorest 40%. As of the 3rd of November 2014, the IMF reports official reserve assets to be $3.192 billion. Foreign currency reserves reported at $271.4 million with volume in millions of fine troy ounces at $200,000. Other reserve assets are financial derivatives valued at $2.7 million. Having this hard currency buffer to work with, the Salvadoran government undertook a monetary integration plan beginning 1 January 2001, by which the US dollar became legal tender alongside the colón, and all formal accounting was undertaken in US dollars. This way, the government has formally limited its possibility of implementing open market monetary policies to influence short-term variables in the economy. Since 2004, the colón stopped circulating and is now never used in the country for any type of transaction. However, some stores still have prices in both colones and US dollars. In general, people were unhappy with the shift from the colón to the US dollar. Because wages are still the same but the price of everything increased. Some economists claim this rise in prices would have been caused by inflation regardless even had the shift not been made. Some economists also contend that now, according to Gresham's law, a reversion to the colón would be disastrous to the economy. The change to the dollar also precipitated a trend toward lower interest rates in El Salvador, helping many to secure credit in order to buy a house or a car. Over time, displeasure with the change has largely disappeared, though the issue resurfaces as a political tool when elections are on the horizon. In June 2021, President Nayib Bukele said he would introduce legislation to make Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. The Bitcoin law was passed by the Legislative Assembly of El Salvador on 9 June 2021, with a majority vote of 62 out of 84. Bitcoin will officially become legal tender 90 days after the publication of the law in the Official Gazette. As part of the law, foreigners can gain permanent residence in El Salvador if they invest 3 Bitcoin into the country. Fiscal policy has been one of the biggest challenges for the Salvadoran government. The 1992 peace accords committed the government to heavy expenditures for transition programs and social services. The stability adjustment programs initiated by President Cristiano's administration committed the government to the privatization of banks, the pension system, electric and telephone companies. The total privatization of the pension system has implied a serious burden for the public finances, because the newly created private pension association funds did not absorb coverage of retired pensioners covered in the old system. As a result, in July 2017, the government of El Salvador wanted to take $500 million from the privatized pension system to cover retired pensioners from the old not privatized system. But the Supreme Court of El Salvador declared this move unconstitutional. The government lost the revenues from contributors and absorbed completely the costs of coverage of retired pensioners. This has been the main source of fiscal imbalance. Arena governments have financed this deficit with the emission of bonds, something the leftist party FMLN has opposed. Debates surrounding the emission of bonds have stalled the approval of the national budget for many months on several occasions, reason for which in 2006 the government will finance the deficit by reducing expenditure in other posts. The emission of bonds and the approval of loans need a qualified majority in the parliament. If the deficit is not financed through a loan, it is enough with a simple majority to approve the budget. This would facilitate an otherwise long process in Salvadoran politics. Despite such challenges to keep public finances in balance, El Salvador still has one of the lowest tax burdens in the American continent. Implemented in September 1992, was raised to 13% in July 1995. The VAT is the biggest source of revenue, accounting for about 52.3% of total tax revenues in 2004. Remittances from Salvadorans working in the United States sent to family members are a major source of foreign income and offset the substantial trade deficit of around $2.9 billion. Remittances have increased steadily in the last decade and reached an all-time high of $2.9 billion in 2005.